So our third speaker is come from industry, Mr. Tryfus. Mr. Tryfus has over 20 years of experience in marketing, sales, and business development. She was a company marketing manager for Asia, focusing on China and Mongolia. So today, he will give us a talk titled "The Innovation of Small Nations from Overcoming Constraints to Developing World Ranking Business Solutions." Let's welcome.
Good afternoon, Presidents and audience. I thank you all very much for this opportunity. Being the only thing standing between you and the coffee break, I will try to show something different. And I do not come from the university, neither from the areas of nanotechnology. I would like to show a different perspective, which is a bit of my understanding, but I think that I share this understanding with some others as well, of a different thing. Many people talk about startup nation. This is a very common word here in Israel. There is even a book written about it, and everyone knows that if you count Nobel Prizes, and if you count a number of patents, it's nothing to compare. But this is a different way from what I would like to present here. My thoughts come from the area that I specialize in. I'm working for many years in and with the industry in marketing and sales. So I do not manufacture anything. I just talk. And it's very easy. And I would like to talk about, if the presentation will allow me, about a different direction. This is the direction that is related to the fact that I think that geography and the physical arena and area that we are living in, and you can see here the neighborhood that we are living in, except the font that is very big of Israel, and if I would not put the font here, I think you would find it very difficult to find the state of Israel on such a small map. And this is not a coincidence, because I think that in many cases, being we are at our back to the wall gives us no other choice. And when I say give us no other choice, it doesn't mean that we teach our children from kindergarten until university via the military and the army to think in a different way. But the area that we live in, the situation that we are working in, created this result. I think, from my understanding, and that if I will go through 66 years of the State of Israel, which is I will do in the next 10 minutes or 15 minutes, it depends on your questions. And I welcome any question, because I hope you will ask questions that I don't know the answer, because it means that I learned something, and this is the reason I'm here. Okay? So I will go through a short review of the history that I think created a lot of the innovation in Israel. And I will refer to innovation and not to the other areas that were spoken until now, because what I think is that if you divide the time, and I'm talking from the defense point of view, and not from the academy, and not from the industry. From the defense point of view, you can divide it into these four basic eras. The first one is the beginning of since the beginning of the State of Israel, 1948, until the Six-Day War, 1967. But it's not really the Six-Day War. I will refer to something else at that area, at that time, in a minute. There is the period between 67 and 73 which made a major difference in the concept of defense in Israel. Today, people are starting to talk about it, but it really happened then. Mainly, it happened in 1973, specifically in the Yom Kippur War, and this is the fact that from having an army that is based on using intelligence, we are built on intelligence that is using an army. This is a new concept, or a new percepted concept. But the fact is that we understood it already then. We started to do it physically, not even knowing that this is what we are doing. And I will refer to it in a minute. As you will see, I will not read all the slides because I assume your English is better than mine, and I'll try to talk about the things and you will read whatever is written. Achieving defense autonomy is a decision taken by the State of Israel in its very first stage. But it was not the same decision that was taken later in 1967, but it was a decision not to rely on others on our defense. Having said that, we should have created, and we did, some tools that we believe that will help us to achieve this goal. If you remember the map, there is only one open side with more friendly environment at that time. I'm not talking about the peace agreements that we have today with Egypt and Jordan, but I'm talking about before the peace agreements, there was only the sea. Okay? There were the lifeguards at the sea and some of our neighbors that have had a common vision that we will all learn to swim. I'm sorry if I'm too rude, but this was a general understanding. So we didn't have any other choice. I'm from Jerusalem, and it's known in Israel that people from Jerusalem don't know to swim. So the decision was made to be actually independent. The most important event at that time was the 1967 embargo by France. Actually, if you think about it, this gentleman should get the Israeli Nobel Prize, because he is the one, at least by defense, to support the defense industry in a way that no one else did. Okay? No one can think that he is Jewish. He was not, to the best of my knowledge. Mr. Charles de Gaulle, he was the president of France. Most of our defense armament in all different arenas, in the army, the air force, the navy, was French. In one day, he closed we say the shelter in Israel, it's the electricity, and there was nothing more. This was just a few weeks before the Six-Day War. We now tend to forget it, but this was just before the Six-Day War. This is approximately the time that the decision was taken not to be dependent anymore on others. A very costly decision, but a decision that was a very strong supporter to the innovation of the defense industry in Israel. And I will show in a minute that what I think it's not only about the defense industry. This decision brought us to do some legal, some less legal things, some things that we thought legal. For example, we paid for the vessels that were in France, and they didn't want to give them to us, so we went and we took them. And there were some other interesting ideas. As I told you, this is not a scientific presentation. We decided to go on the three main areas. Main battle tank to be developed in Israel, a very, very expensive project. To have a vessel and to have an aircraft. Just to remind you, 1967, if I'm not wrong, and I did not check it before the presentation, we were approximately 3 million people on this in this neighborhood. Okay, the state of Israel consists of 3 million people. There isn't any such country in this size, even 5 times this size, that develops all these three in their own country. Okay? Arava, Why did we put this aircraft here? Because, again, this is a technology, we did not steal it. But when Charles de Gaulle, you remember the honorable Jewish prize winner, decided his decision, many French scientists, Jewish French scientists, came to Israel and decided we will break it. But they broke it in a way that supported our industry. So for many, many years, the Israel Air Industries, it is called today Israel Aerospace Industries, built aircraft that look the same. They have a central body and two booms and the tail. If you look at the aircraft of IAI, I think that except the new ones, the new airliners or the new private aircraft that they built, all of them were built in the same way. Not only that, all the first UAVs look the same. Why? Because this is the only technology we had. So why change if we know how to do it this way and it works? All the other aircraft looks the same. It's not a coincidence. Kafir, not by coincidence, looks like a Mirage. Again, vessels, and only the main battle tank is an Israeli one. Tactical intelligence. The 73 war brought us to understand that we have a major problem to know what is happening behind the borders, and if you don't want to cross them or you want to cross them in a way that won't endanger your own forces, you need to find a solution. The solution started from those kids who play with the aircrafts, okay? And it eventually came to be an industry. Just to tell you today, unmanned air vehicles in the Israeli Air Force fly more than half of the flight hours of aircrafts in the Israeli Air Force, more than half of the sorties in the Air Force, which is unperceptible. It is not similar to what is happening in the world, although to my understanding this is the direction. Why? Because if you check what is developed today in the world as a fighter aircraft, there is a single Western one, JSF, the Joint Strike Fighter. Expansion of unmanned to the sea and air, and to move this know-how into the civilian and commercial area. If this is what we had in 1973, in 1974, Arava aircraft, the ship, and the main battle tank, today we are talking, these are all unmanned, or remote manned, or remote piloted. For this purpose, it's the same. Okay? We have it in all different disciplines. This aircraft has a wingspan of a 737. It's a 26.5 meters. It's larger than this room. It's crazy. It can fly more than 2 days. It can fly over 40,000 feet. But we are talking about defense, but I'm here to talk about innovation. So this is innovation because others did not do it before we did. But we have in defense innovation that its support is taking us to other places as well. Satellite industry. Just a few words about the satellite industry, which is, from my point of view, very interesting because I think that this is a very good example of standing with our back to the wall. Why? We said that we want intelligence, that we need intelligence. If we need intelligence, it cannot end at the range of the UAV that we said before. You want to have a satellite. You want to be independent. In the world, it is known, I'm a combat controller, it is well that 100,000 feet is the limit. There is no real regulation above this altitude. So even if I don't have an Iraqi passport, I can fly over 100,000 feet without an Iraqi passport. No one will do anything. It's not a problem. I'm not doing anything wrong. Satellites. Okay, satellites is very nice. Observation satellites fly at about between 400 to 800 most of them kilometers. Yes. If you want to take such a satellite, a US typical satellite is around 1 ton. You must have a missile. You must put the satellite in space. If you want to put a satellite in space, there is what I call price per kilo. It's very simple, because you take the price of the satellite, which is by kilogram. You need a massive launcher, which is again by kilogram. You need, if you do it commercially, you need insurance, but if not, you need a lot of investment. And not like other investment, this investment is done before you even get the first picture. You put all the money in front, up front. The biggest problem we have, you remember the first map. If you want to launch a satellite to an orbit, you launch it typically either from the equator or you launch it to the east. But we cannot launch to the east because our only friends are at the west side, the sea, you remember. So in order to launch it the other direction, you must have a much larger missile. So how do we solve the problem? So we make a small satellite. But if we make a small satellite, we have a problem with the optics. If we have a problem with the optics, we cannot get the same resolution. If we don't get the same resolution, we don't get the tactical advantage. So what do? We solve the physics. Right? It's not me. Again, I'm only talking. The satellite shrink. We have a satellite at the size of 100 kilogram or 150 kilogram that is doing a similar job, give and take, as an 800 kilogram satellite. This pushes the optic industry, the launcher, the different types of engines that you put in a missile, the monitoring of the launch. Everything is based on one requirement. I just want strategic intelligence. Independent. Okay? This is the explanation. This is the missile. This is a result of these capabilities. Going into the missile business, brought us all these capabilities. But I want to say something more than that. Something that is not small mistake. Something that is not written here. I want to give you an example of innovation. In the Air Force, it is known for many, many years that if an aircraft wants to take down an aircraft, in the past he had to be behind him with a cannon, later behind him with a missile that goes to the engine of the other aircraft, and later you could, with a radar missile, hit him even if you are in front. Okay? But usually you have to be, it limits your ability to take off other aircraft. What did one of the defense industries under innovation project did in Israel? Develop a missile that goes backwards. How didn't anyone else in the world do it? This is innovation. This is something that came from a different way of thinking. What I want to say here, and you can read it by yourself, is the fact that when you take the people that are thinking in a different way in the defense industry, enable them the freedom of thought, as you said here in the university, it's the same. And not limiting them by saying you have to do this and that, but rather find a solution to this problem, and you have an open credit to do it. We get to all different types of solutions that supports all the different industries. This is not only the defense. This is one perspective. Again, it's not the only one. It's not the most important one. It's another way to look at innovation in Israel from the defense point of view. About the future, we have a lot of challenges. Some of them are listed here. There are many others. As you said before, we don't know what the future will present us. We didn't know 5 years ago that we will have gas out of in the sea in front of Israel. We always thought, this is what I was taught, that Moses went for 40 years in the desert, a road that should have taken him maximum a year, only because his mission was to find the only place in the Middle East that has no crude oil. Okay? And he succeeded. So this is a few words about the future. I think that it's a state of mind. And this is actually the end of my presentation. Thank you.
What's the role university playing during the whole innovation process at national levels?
I'm very happy for that question. Thank you. I think that the university plays a major role because the university, by definition, has an open-minded state of mind. And people know that when they come here, it's their way of thinking and exploring and doing research is unlimited, exactly as was said by the president. This is something that people know, and then some of them later come back either to the defense industry directly, to the defense directly, or to the defense industry. And this supports the defense continuously. This is the academy. It is not in a way it's not the way that it was to what I know in the past of the institutes in China, if this is what you refer to. It's a different way of thinking. It's more I don't want to say I think the European way of thinking, but in a more open, really open way of addressing the problems. Please.
Israel is also very good at agriculture technology. And this is also a necessity because half of the country is either desert or basically impossible to, or a lot of it is desert. And we don't have much water. So it seems that we have to be standing with our back to the wall to do something. But this is also very dangerous because it means that we make decisions out of necessity or out of very tough situations, which also means that there are certain things that are left without much care, right? Because this is not necessarily the right optimal decision. So when you talk about the future, how is it possible to? Many people in Israel like this. Everything is true, right? This is correct. This is the history. But now the question is about the future. What did we take out of it? Of course, it's not the message is not keep fighting us or we continue to continue to innovate. So it's we have to, in some sense, we also have to rethink the motivation. So we had fantastic start, but now we need to change the way we think about it, and I think that's part of the message.
Personally, I totally agree with you, and I think this is the not part of the message. I think this is the message. I think that we are still with our back to the wall, not only because of the neighborhood, but because of many other reasons. But I really think that the war is not the same. It's the same word, but it doesn't have the same meaning. Our existence here is totally dependent, to my understanding, on our capability to do nanotechnology, agriculture, cyber technology, and things. Main battle tank will be a very nice piece of metal, to my understanding, in a very short time. It's very similar to aircrafts or other things. This is not the future, although I don't know to say what the future will look like, because I don't know if anyone does know. But I totally agree to what you're saying, and this is why we should change the way of what we are thinking, but unfortunately, it's not the reason. The reason is the same wall. Thank you very much.
Okay, let's thank the speaker again.
Thank you.